Hey, this is Matt once again. What about another videos? Another paid request, this time for Gia. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested requesting any type of topics or verses, reactions, commentaries, reviews, re-reviews, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, this is for Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade versus The Mummy from 1999. And I'm like, well, that's not really fair because for me, easily, it's Last Crusade. But, there may be some people who feel The Mummy is better. Now, I do like The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. I do find that a fun, entertaining movie. It's my favorite version of The Mummy. Brendan Fraser, I'm a fan of. I have not seen The Whale, but I'm glad he's getting a bit of a comeback, it seems, and he deserves it. He seems like a very nice guy. Went through some BS in Hollywood, sadly. And now, granted, The Mummy is better, I guarantee, than this upcoming Indiana Jones film. But if I'm compared to any of the first four Indiana Jones films, I would pick any of the four above The Mummy. Again, I like The Mummy quite a bit. But the Indiana Jones films, yes, that includes the fourth one. I enjoy Harrison Ford's Indy. I love the adventure aspect. And getting to Last Crusade, I do feel that because it's not hampered so much with the abundance of CGI like The Mummy has, it look-wise, it stands up a bit better. This is Harrison Ford in his prime in 1989, which is a crazy summer where you had all sorts of movies. Lethal Weapon 2, Batman 89, Ghostbusters 2, License to Kill, the James Bond film, and more. And you got Steven Spielberg in his prime. You have John Rhys Davies coming back as Sala. You got Denholm Elliott coming back as Brody. So it does have a connection to my favorite entry, Raiders of the Lost Ark, because you get to see those characters come back. You had the wonderful addition of Sean Connery as the dad, which I know is weird because Sean Connery and Harrison Ford aren't really too far apart in age, but they still made it believable. And I thought Sean Connery was a wonderful addition. While Raiders of the Lost Ark is my favorite, I would say Last Crusade is my second favorite. Then maybe Temple of Doom, and then Indy 4. But I still like Indy 4. I think that's not as bad as people make it out to be. Now, Last Crusade, as much as I don't mind the story of the Mummy, the Last Crusade, the story intrigues me more because of the feeling of adventure for the Holy Grail, which seems like such a natural selection. I'm surprised that wasn't done in the second movie. But I still like the second movie, the prequel, Temple of Doom. But the Holy Grail, that just seems natural. And, the music by John Williams is classic. And I love the music by Jerry Goldsmith and The Mummy, but I would say I gotta put John Williams' music and Indiana Jones above it. I mean, the music he did, especially for that trilogy of Indiana Jones films, is just absolutely classic. And then also, like, the look of the film. I mean, while, yes, you could say some of the, I don't know what you call optical effects, like the plane sliding side by side with Indy and his dad and going up front. And the show, obviously they couldn't do that absolutely for real, but it's still, maybe there's little edges you can see that's not totally photorealistic, but it still looks better and still more of the encompasses of physicality in a weird way of the environment compared to like the abundance of CGI in The Mummy. And that's, I even said, as much as like The Mummy, it does have an overabundance of CG. Although at least, like the stair beetles, at least you hear like there's real rats when they're in the crypt. There's some really good stunt work. And there is in The Mummy, but in Last Crusade even more so. Like the whole section with the tank, where you have Harrison Ford really hanging on and getting all this dirt and rocks as the tank's ready to crush him and drag him against the wall. And when Sean Connery's on the treads and Indy has to whip him to save him, it does look like they're on a real fucking tank. And you just makes you even feel more of the intense suspense of it all. How they don't make it out of this situation. Same with the boat chase. Go between them, are you crazy? And you see real boats exploding and all this other stuff going on. And it's one of those things where, how do I put it? Despite it being done 10 years before The Mummy, because that was 89, The Mummy was 99, I still felt more of a grounded connection in a weird way with Temple of Doom in terms of effects and the way it looks and the way it showcases its action set pieces. And that's not to say, I mean, again, The Mummy, I do like a lot of his action set pieces, but Last Crusade more so. Now, I will say that while I don't mind the lady in Last Crusade, I definitely enjoy Rachel Weisz in The Mummy more. Just her bookworm cuteness, and I thought she had good chemistry with Brendan Fraser. I forget the actress' name in Alison Doody, I believe. In Last Crusade, she works fine. But again, maybe that also makes sense because she also becomes a bad guy in that and blah, blah, blah. While Rachel Weisz, I definitely, understandably so, it's much more of the love story. You feel that connection more because that's its purpose. While Indy is more of a father and son story. And it depends what you're looking for. If you're looking more for a love story, The Mummy has it. But I actually really liked the father and son story. I think that was very endearing. And I just think Harrison Ford, Sean Connery just worked so well together. You bought them as a father and son duo. And it was just a joy of how, you Junior, I should have sent it to the Marx Brothers. I did a lot of fun sincere humor because of that relationship. It delves more into Indy's character, his backstory. And that's another thing is that as a sequel, it's one of those benefits that it's a great standalone film, but it's also a great sequel. So that gives it even a double edge over The Mummy. Well, The Mummy, works well, but it's introducing itself to its characters here. You take an established character who we know and love from the previous two films, but now we add more. We get to see a bit of his younger years. And River Phoenix, may he rest in peace, did a nice job showcasing bits of that. And how he got the scar on his chin and that whole sequence. And also maybe where he got his fear of states. Like everything happened on that day. He got the hat, he got the scar, his fear of states. One hell of a day. And then the idea of showing a bit more of his history with his dad and the way his dad treated him and how his dad actually does care for his son. At the end, Indiana, let her go. Like this is the thing his father was looking for all this time, but it's that clinch of, I care about you more than this fucking cup. And while you just say that the ending of The Mummy has a fun action nature, and I love the scene with Brendan Fraser getting the sword and cutting up all the mummies, and that's my favorite part of the Jerry Goldsmith music. Indiana Jones, then, like you say, I think has a more of a nice personal ending because of moments like that, because of, I love the traps and these three sets of traps and the get the cup to save his dad. So while I like the romance between Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, I felt even more of an emotional connection between Indy and his dad. And that was very endearing. That's definitely one of the big hallmarks and highlights of that movie. And sort of like, if we're talking about musical score, as much as I like Jerry Goldsmith, I would say I would pick John Williams' music, because he takes what makes Indiana Jones great, but then adds his own nature so that it's not just a carbon copy of the previous two scores. I think action set piece, while I do like The Mummy, I think the action set pieces just feel a bit more of that physicality, because we didn't have CG to have this. It also is a benefit of not having the CGI creature walking around, which for 1999 they did the best they could, but still this video game CGI creature you see walking around for chunks of the film. While you don't have that distraction in Last Crusade. And while I do like some of the supporting characters, Benny, who keeps fucking over Brendan Fraser's character, John Hannah, who is Rachel Weisz's brother. Maybe because of nostalgia, maybe because I grew up with Last Crusade more. I like John Rhys Davies more as Sala. I like Denham Elliott more as Brody. I know the way, and he is. And then Sean Connery goes, "Got lost in his own museum, huh?" Yeah. Or Sala, "You were named after the dog." I really like that dog. See, whether nostalgia or whatever you want to put it, I just really love getting to know the characters and that camaraderie. And, many would say that was a great finale to the character. Now, I liked Indiana Jones 4, Tin with Crystal Skull. I think that's better than its reputation. But I just see when you look at them going to the sunset, it's really nice fitting finale as well. It does give like a nice sense of finality. And that's what I'm talking with that music. Ba da da na 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 da da na 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 na. And that's the thing. While The Mummy does fine as this fun escapism with taking over the world, The Mummy, gotta stop it. Like I said before, I'm a sucker for that mystery, and that's hold over more of where is this cup. We gotta go into the crypt. Well, how much does Sean Connery know? The race to get to the Holy Grail. Much more usage, it seems, of real locations. And as much as I like the director of The Mummy, I love Deep Rising and stuff. I do think Steven Spielberg is a better director than Steven Sommers. And for all those choices, I do think that while I do like The Mummy from '99, I gotta give it to Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. It was just a wonderful sequel. It didn't screw up with the characters. And it's tougher to do a sequel because you have to do similar stuff so it doesn't seem like a random what the fuck movie. Although there are exceptions where that has worked. Halloween 3, for example. But you also don't want to seem like a carbon copy, but you don't want to seem like a total 180. Again, there are exceptions to both. I don't mind another 40 hours, even though it's pretty much a carbon copy of the first. And I like Halloween 3, even though it's a 180 to the first two. But normally, what was it Robert Zemeckis once said about Back to the Future? They're doing sequels. You gotta do the same, but you gotta do different. Well, what does that mean? Aliens. That's why Aliens to me is my favorite sequel. Even Rambo First Blood Part 2. Rambo kicking ass, but it's different because the location in Vietnam, but similar where he's fucked over. He's fucked over by the cops. He was fucked over by Murdoch. Come and get you. And Indiana Jones, like you say, handled that very, very well. And it's a tough thing to juggle. And I want to make sure I'm not missing anything, so bear with me. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. But yeah, it's one of those where I remember watching Indiana Jones films on VHS over and over and over again. So you could also chalk it up to I saw The Mummy in '99, enjoyed it as its fun escapism. There were quite a few years before that where I grew up with Indiana Jones as a kid. Because by the time The Mummy came out, I was 83, 16 years old. While I'm 9 years old and watching Last Crusade. Yeah, again, the catacombs house the tomb of the first Crusade knight. The castle where they find... Again, that stuff was really fun with the banter between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery. This is very endearing. And also because I like Sean Connery as well, and while I don't mind Rachel Weisz as an actress, Brendan Fraser I liked even more. But it's Harrison Ford and Sean Connery. He's not. I might not have grown up with James Bond like other people did, but I did enjoy films like Outland and other movies Sean Connery had been in, so I knew who he was. And then more so later on with The Rock and other stuff. So it's great to see these two and their back and forth and the type of character Sean Connery was playing and them tied up to the chair. Dad, what? Dad, what? And they just made a really good, unique team. And like I said, it's not always the case where you get a father and son team. And that made it a bit more unique and different as well. And let's say action set pieces like on the motorcycle and him having to, Indy having to, not catapult, not harpoon either, but I forget what's that called. Pretty much take that big thing and just shove it right up the fucking motorcycle's ass. And I did done in camera. It's that wall-to-wall CGI in the background and such. And that does help in the look of the film and the proceedings of the film that make it feel more grounded despite crazy stuff like a fucking man that's alive for 700 years with the Grail. I always like that effect too of the Grail where he chose poorly and how the guy kind of melts away. That was always an image that stuck with me in my head. And like I said, The Mummy does have a lot of merit to it. And I mentioned it's a fun movie. But as much as I enjoy it in that adventure Indiana Jones style, it's not going to compete with the actual Indiana Jones films for me. Can't help it. Just I grow with them more. I just have even more fun with them. And just the mystery of the Grail, where it's at, and again, the more real locations, the less usage of, CGI enhancements, because there's 89 compared to 99. Again, as much as I like Rachel Weisz, Sean Connery is Sean Connery, and again, the father and son made it feel a bit more unique. There's many movies of man, woman, fall in love, less of father and son trying to get together, unless it's like more of a kid's film, where the kid's like 10 or 12 and he hasn't seen his dad for many years. But for older characters and father and son, much more rare, it seemed, with this kind of picture. So again, that made it a bit more unique of a feel to the story. And just a great sequel. And I know for many people, that's the final Indiana Jones film. There's only 3 movies. To me, there's 4. Like I said, I do like the 4th one. But, and I do like The Mummy, but Last Crusade definitely wins the battle, hands down, at least for me. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later.